Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the CR7 Podcast. Almost did my actual YouTube intro. The RTJC is back, and today we're coming to you live for a morning episode, 10:20 a.m. So yeah, we're back here. We're all over the place. I don't think I made a tweet about it, but it is what it is. So you guys can watch this on replay. Holy God, this is the first time it's filmed. It's all good. Okay. But anyway, if you guys are watching it live, welcome. If you guys are watching it on replay, welcome as well. We have a lot to talk about this week. Obviously, football is back. We just had UFC Fight Night. We have a UFC pay-per-view this Saturday. The Olympics are coming to a close. We have a lot to talk about. But before I get into the rundown, Cole, say what's up to the people.
Right. Doing all right, but it's all right. It's all.
I don't know what's going on with Cole's microphone here, but there's something wrong. Like here, Cole, why don't you call me back through this because something's wrong. I don't know what's going on with that because it's all laggy from even from beforehand. But anyway, let's see if we can get it now. There we go. I think that's better. I think we're good. All right, I think that's better. Anyway, getting into the rundown here, we're going to be doing our Phillies weekly recap. Then we will be doing our some UFC Fight Night reactions. Kind of a boring card, so not really much we're going to have to say there. We'll be giving our UFC 305 predictions in the NFL. We will be talking about the Eagles, who got their win over the Baltimore Ravens in a preseason bout. And I'm talking against the UFC. But anyway, we'll be reacting to that. And then Cole has a bold prediction for the San Antonio Spurs going into next NBA season. So we'll be talking a little bit of basketball, staying on the basketball topic, that being the Olympics. The USA men's and women's took home the Olympic gold medals. Not easy, though, but we'll be talking about that. And then swinging back over into the MLB, will the Braves make the playoffs? An NL East team that is trying to sneak their way in, and then we will get into Ryan's rants. Cole, since the last time we have talked, the Phillies have gone 2-3. Talk about this team.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, it is disappointing here. You look at the Diamondback series, just the pitching is not where it has been. I mean, everyone's arm has just apparently gone dead. We've lost 3 straight. You get the first one in Arizona after Cody Allard throws an absolute gem for you. Jordan Montgomery, we know what he's been this year. He's been absolutely horrible coming back from, his injury lately. Estevez picks up the stave. And then, you look at the next game, even worse. Hoffman blows it. He's been horrible as of late. He's been great all year, but, that's just not something you want to see. And then you look at this last game, Nola gets absolutely rocked. He's horrible at Chase Field. I just want to point that out. He has like a 9 ERA at Chase Field. And then Sanchez, he's now 8-8 after, starting the year off very, very hot. He's come down a little bit to earth. And Merrill Kelly coming back from injury as of late. He's been phenomenal for the Diamondbacks, going 3-0. So, yeah, I'll say a little bit about the hitting. In the LA series, oh my gosh, Schwarber was absolutely incredible. I loved what I saw from Schwarber. But then when you get into the Arizona series, I know Marsh snapped his streak, Stott had a couple of hits, but this team has just been so bad since the All-Star break. Schwarber, Rojas, Rojas and Castellanos have been our best hitters since the All-Star break, and that's saying something. But yeah, you look at this team. We're gonna go back home. You got Miami, which they're not good. They're throwing a bunch of nobodies against us. But we have Taiwan Walker starting next game, and Tyler Phillips the next start. And then you look at this Washington series. This is a totally winnable series. You got Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, and Walker. I understand the Washington pitching's been solid, but they've been nothing. As a team, because they can't hit for anything. They have C.J. Abrams, they got James Wood, and then it just falls off from there. So yeah, and then you go on the road against Atlanta. So this team it's been facing some adversity, but they've faced adversity before. I think they can just power through it, and hopefully get some wins at home in the coming week.
First thing I would say about the Miami series is that I don't think it's so simple. Miami always plays the Phillies tough, and especially with top Mr. $18 million get on the mound, you never know what's going to happen there. In this Dodgers series, I think we broke down what happened on Monday. Then you go into Tuesday, you get the win. Going to Wednesday, you get a pretty easy win. You hold the Dodgers to 2 and 4 runs, which looked better for the pitching, I will say. And then you go into the Diamondback series, and then once again, you hold them to 4 runs and you score 6 yourself. You're like, okay, maybe this team can, figure it out, as we are a few games up, like on a 3-game winning streak at that point. And then you just completely fall off a cliff on Friday. I mean, literally the first pitch, we were, I was playing Call of Duty with some friends, and the first pitch, I look over, and Jeff Hoffman gives up a walk-off home run. The guy who hit the walk-off home run, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, Del Castillo. It was his first home run of his career. The guy hasn't even had been in 10 at-bats in the MLB season. And yet he's hitting a walk-off home run on a team that is supposed to have, right before the season, the number 1 bullpen in the MLB. That is absolutely unacceptable. In this game, the Phillies really weren't even in this game to begin with. I mean, you only picked it up in the 7th inning when Harper hit a home run and Rojas was able to hit a double. I will say Rojas and Harper, a lot better weeks. Schwarber, not really much going in the Diamondback series. A lot though. He did really well in the Mariners series and the Dodgers series, hitting a few leadoff home runs, which was definitely very good. So I want to give him a shout out there. But the Phillies were barely in this game to begin with. And then you give yourself a chance to try and escape with a win. And then he just gave up a walk-off home run, which is just absolutely terrible. On the first pitch to a guy that no one's ever heard of. But yeah, and I mean, Wheeler didn't pitch that bad. Only gave up a run or 2 runs. Sorry, he pitched 6 innings. I mean, I can't really see where it's all going wrong here. The bullpen has not been great. I will say that. I've had it with Tanner Banks. I was watching him on Sunday, and he was something else. And then I go to Saturday's game right here against the Diamondbacks, and 11-1. I mean, by what? The 2nd inning, it was already over. I mean, they just looked absolutely incompetent the entire game. Actually, no, by the 5th inning, it was over after they got 4 runs, and then in the 11th or the 7th inning, they were able to get 7 runs in that whole inning. I mean, once again, the bullpen just absolutely terrible. Nola, not bad, only 3 runs given up, but too many pitches thrown. And then you come out, and then you have Marte, who I can't stand whatsoever. He gives up 7 earned runs, which is just an absolute disgrace. Why he's even on an MLB roster, it begs the question. So I can't see that. And then you go into Sunday. I go over to my grandparents for this game, and we're turning on the Cowboys and Rams preseason game. That's how terrible it looked. Sanchez, not a bad start. I think he gave up a run early. If I go back on the, he gave up a run in the first inning. And then, the Phillies looked like, okay, maybe we can get something going here. They're getting guys on base. They're leaving guys on base, but maybe we can pull through eventually. And then in the third inning, everything just, crashes like a cheap tent. I mean, I don't know what the hell was going on here. It was just literally everything went wrong in the third inning. And for some reason, Rob Thompson was keeping him on the mound. And honestly, probably for good reason, because Tanner Banks, Kerkering, Alvarado, and Lazar, who the hell is that? I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, they just called out Lazar. He wasn't that bad, though. Did he give up a run?
Who?
Lazar.
No, he didn't. But I mean, God knows who that is. But I mean, just an absolute disgrace from half these guys. I mean, he didn't do the hitting wasn't even bad in this game. The pitching was just completely terrible. I'm kind of blaming a lot. I'm kind of blaming a lot of hitting in this game. I'm trying to give the pitching some credit. And I did that a lot for this Dodgers series here, where pretty much everything went right. But in this Diamondback series, I mean, other than the first and second game, you really couldn't do anything. But the hitting has been absolutely terrible. Cole, you quote tweeted something yesterday from WIP where it said all these guys are batting 100. Stott, Realmuto, Turner, like these guys have to pick this stuff up. Stott, if he wants his contract soon after, his rookie deal expires and all that, then he's got to start hitting the ball. Now we don't have to worry about that for another couple of years now, but. I'm still pointing out the obvious. Realmuto, he's on a very big contract himself, and I don't want to point this out, but I do beg the question that this guy Martian has been was killing it when he was out with injury, and apparently he's not doing so bad in AAA. I would also say that Scott Kingery, he's doing very, very well. So I'm not saying Trey Turner has to watch out, but I'm just saying right now, he could lose a couple starts if Scott Kingery could get called up, maybe to play a few games in here, maybe try and help us get back that lead. If Trey Turner cannot get out of the slump that he is in, he was able to get out of one once. I'm not saying he can't do it again, but I'm saying they better do it quick and they better do it now, because the fact that you are now losing to the Los Angeles Dodgers after taking the series against them, you are just not looking good. And then, Cole, I also would say that, you go into you're going into the rest of the season and you're only two games up over the Milwaukee Brewers. You could be in third place by the next time we talk, Cole. And then we're looking at the Atlanta Braves. We have a 9-10 game advantage. It's only down to 7. I don't think that lead will change. I don't think that we would be giving up the NL East. I would sure as hell hope not. But it's something that we really do have to watch out for, because the Atlanta Braves, while 3-7 in their last 10, they are still not a bad team, and they still could sneak into the wild card. Cole will be talking about that later. Also, the New York Mets, they are looking good as of late as well. While losing 3 straight, they have also been on a resurgence. So I'm looking at the teams in the NL East right now. While not that great in their last 10 games, they have not been looking that bad as of late. And now, Cole, I'm just going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here before we get into the UFC. Do you think that the pressure will get to the Phillies of facing these bad teams, and do you think they could blow a couple games here in the next week?
I think they could definitely blow it against Miami, but I think it's impossible at home against Washington to blow a game. I mean, Washington, they're all right. Their bullpen, I mean, they got Kyle Finnegan, but, these starters, I mean, Cole Irvin has cooled down a lot. Mackenzie Gore, he's actually solid. Patrick Corbin, oh boy, if we lose to Patrick Corbin, I don't even know what's going to happen. But anyways, I mean, we should sweep them. I'm just going to be honest. Because we have Wheeler and Nola the first 2 games, and then Sanchez, and he's been great at home this year. And then Walker, maybe not that game, but anyways. My point is, this is a very, very beatable team, and there should be no way that we split or lose this series. I mean, we should win 3 or 4, and the Miami series, if we split it, it won't be the end of me, but gosh, that team is worse than the Washington team. I mean, who are you going to watch? Jake Berger? I don't think so, unless it's a pie eating contest. I'm not going to that game. But anyways, yeah, I mean, there's no way they shouldn't just absolutely crush these next, these bad teams.
I brought up the bats earlier and how they're hitting like, I don't even know, hitting like people in the recess yard. But is there any way that we can get these bats back going to what they were before the All-Star break?
I don't think we can, and I'm just hoping it can be, what it was during the post. I hope we can get back into the swing of things by the postseason, because we were wasting all our luck in the beginning of the season. I know this team is good, and I know we can hit a lot better than what we need to do. But I think it comes back to like the captains, Turner and Harper. I mean, these guys are not hitting well, and when your superstars aren't hitting well, then your teams it's gonna fall onto your team. And so I feel like once the big bats get back into the swing of things, and they start hitting bombs and whatnot, I think it'll be a whole new story.
My grandfather brought up a good point before we move on, and he said on Sunday that if the Phillies were a week out from the postseason, we would be in real trouble. And I completely agree with that right there. I wanted to bring that up right here. So yeah, I think that's it for the Phillies. Any final word, Cole?
No.
Alrighty. So now we will move on here to the UFC. Dana White's Contender Series is back on tonight. We have season 8 of that show. And now moving on into Fight Night, a very forgettable card in my opinion. Not really much happened. There wasn't really any big fights that really got anybody out of their chairs. I mean, Sergey Spivak was able to finish Tybura in the very first round. What was it? A triangle, I believe he finished him with. But this was just a really weird fight. I mean, Tybura took him down, and for some reason, he just had his arm in a position like he was in a full guard, which I'm not really sure why, and that led him getting into the triangle, which I don't understand how you get put in the triangle that quickly. Why his arm was stretched out like that, like he was in a full guard position, was just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. I don't know what he was doing. Spivak is not anywhere near a contender, the number 9 ranked heavyweight contender right now. Obviously, he's not going to be getting a title shot anywhere in the near future. This was just an okay main event that really didn't get anybody excited. Obviously, it was cool to see a first round finish, but it really doesn't make anybody, excited to see these guys, see Spivak fight anywhere in the near future. Cole?
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't even watch this fight.
I didn't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. It is pretty. It's like you said. It's pretty awesome to see a first round submission. But this guy, I've never heard of him. I don't think he's gonna get a title shot.
No way.
Yeah, Tom Aspinall. He's not as good.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, I'm excited for Dana White's Contender Series tonight. So we'll have to first time I'm really watching Dana White's Contender Series, because obviously I didn't watch the UFC as closely as I have been doing as of late. So now we'll move on. We will get into UFC 305 predictions. Now I will have a full YouTube video out with obviously more analysis coming to you probably on Friday or early Saturday. That really depends on scheduling and stuff like that. But obviously here I give not little analysis, but as much as I can without, spoiling everything from my YouTube video. And also you hear Cole's picks as well. So Cole, we will start out with the very first fight. We can start with you.
All right. Protest versus Jing Liang.
There you go.
I'll go with Protest just because, he's good on the money line. He's a lot younger as well. So, I just feel like it won't be a submission, but I think it'll be a knockout in round 3.
Now, Cole, speaking of money lines, I was talking about Stadium Live last week, and then you sent me you have 1,000,000 coins. When did you start playing?
I started playing December.
Jeez Louise.
I just do it on the subway in school, so.
Yeah, I'm making these picks thinking I'm the biggest genius in the universe, and you're like heavy gambling on all these crazy bets, and I'm ready to jump off a bridge. I feel like an idiot making putting out picks and all that. I mean, I don't heavy wager. I don't put a lot of coins up, but
I felt like an idiot when the White Sox beat the Yankees last night.
yeah, I also put something on one of those all those teams to win as well. I did something with that yesterday. I lost 3 yesterday, 3 in a row. All 3 I put up for the day. I lost, so I got to do. Hopefully,
my big ones were Snell and Sale, 10+ strikes.
I went Snell for under. I didn't think he was gonna have a good game. I tried to go with the under because of the payout.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna work out.
Yeah, he's nuts after the All-Star.
But yeah, he's been going crazy. I should have went with the over, but it's okay. Anyway, getting back to my picks here. So I'm going to take Practice by unanimous decision. People have doubted Practice in his last 2 fights. A lot of people have taken him to lose, but he is a very big welterweight. And I think the UFC is kind of giving him the advantage here because they want to get his name out there with a stand-up guy like Jing Liang, who's a decent striker with okay defense. And I think that's the perfect recipe for Practice to win here by a knockout. I don't think he will get the knockout. I think it will be by I think he'll win by unanimous decision, just because I don't think a veteran like Jing Liang will allow himself to get knocked out. Next fight.
All right, Tai Tuivasa and Rosenstruck. I'm gonna go with Tai, split decision. I don't know. It's just something's calling me. I don't know. Just the fact that I don't know. This could be close. I think Tai will take him down to the ground a little bit.
Ooh, okay, bold prediction right there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much on this.
I got you.
Don't really know about these 2 guys.
Yeah, I got you. I will say that Tuivasa did look pretty bad on the ground in his last fight, which did get him submitted in the first round. Both these guys are stand-up guys, which is what I believe will happen in this fight. I think that this fight will completely rely on the lucky punch. I doubt that this fight is going to the ground at all. I think the UFC is kind of giving Tuivasa we're giving you somebody that works with your style. If you don't win this fight, then you're probably not going to be anywhere in the top heavyweight rankings for the rest of your career. I hope Tuivasa takes this fight seriously because he has looked out of shape in his last couple of fights, and I don't honestly think he's going to be in shape for this fight, which is why I'm going to take Rosenstruck by a 3rd round knockout, just because I think Tuivasa is just going to get exhausted. Once again, this is going to be a stand and bang fight, but I think this fight is going to completely rely on the lucky punch, which is what I think Rosenstruck will land in the 3rd round. I think Tuivasa will be exhausted, and I think he will go down in the 3rd round. I don't think he will be in shape. I don't think that he is the fighter. Well, obviously, I know that he's the fighter that he's not the fighter that he once was, so I believe that he will be going down in the very last round. The co-main event?
Yeah, I mean, Gamrot versus Hooker?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about that fight.
Oh, good. Anyways, I'll take Gamrot. We could have passed over it because, this fight is just going to be one-sided the whole time. Dan Hooker, he's just fun, so just going to go with Gamrot. I'll say... All right, I'm going to go with a 2nd round knockout.
Ooh, okay. I like seeing the Dan Hooker hate. That's interesting. A lot of people. I mean, it's mixed with Dan Hooker, I would say, but a lot of people do not like Gamrot as well, and for obvious reasons, though. I mean, he likes to he he lays down to win most of his fights. But honestly, I think that's gonna lead him to win here. I think he's gonna win this by unanimous decision. Obviously, Dan Hooker has a devastating knockout power, but when it comes to Gamrot and when it comes to his grappling, I think he's one of the best grapplers in the entire UFC. And when it comes to someone like Dan Hooker, I think he folds under the pressure. He could not fight someone like an Islam Makhachev. He could not deal with the wrestling like with Islam Makhachev. And I will also bring up that when Gamrot fought Rafael dos Anjos and he was getting outbanged, he still relied on that takedown and was able to lay his way to a win, which is what I think he will do here. Even if Dan Hooker is able to lay those strikes, I don't think he's going to be able to defend the takedown of Gamrot, which is why I think he will be able to get his way to unanimous decision. I think this fight will be very, very close, but at the end of the day, I think all three judges will give him the advantage here in this fight, and I think that he will be able to very, very, very closely eke this one out.
All right. Second to last fight, we got CR7 versus Steve Erkeg.
There you go.
So I'm gonna go with Erkeg here. I've seen him before on the main card, and I believe he won his last fight. So I'm just gonna go with the hot guy. You know, I think I'm gonna go submission here.
Okay.
By Erkeg in the third round.
Erkeg, now, well, I don't know if you remember this, but I was ranting about the fact that he got a title shot in April or May, I don't even remember, against Alexandre Pantoja, which I still believe he did not deserve that title shot. He got 3 fights he had 3 fights in the UFC. Obviously, in hindsight, he did deserve that title shot. Because, before the fight, it's obvious I don't think he deserved that title shot. I just think the UFC needed to put some fresh blood in the ring with Pantoja. But in hindsight, I mean, he obviously looked like he deserved it. He took 2 to 3 rounds with Pantoja. And going back, I watched that full fight a few weeks ago, I think it was. And I think his downfall in that fight was in the 5th round when he decided to grapple with Pantoja, which obviously he was not going to win. He was outbanging Pantoja the entire fight. He had more damage. That was a fact. He landed more. I think he landed more significant strikes. I believe that was the stat. That is a fact. Well, actually, you could fact check me on that. But anyway, you guys get my point here. CR7 does have the experience in this fight, but Eric Craig, once again, probably should be the UFC flyweight champion currently and probably should be defending his belt as the co-main event. We saw in the Pantoja fight that he can strike with the best of them. And while France is a good striker, he has lost to high-level fighters before, like Brandon Royval and others. So, and he was not able to strike to them. And I would argue after that Alexandre Pantoja fight that Steve Craig is definitely on the level of those guys. So yeah, I think that Steve Craig's hot right now. Even after losing his last fight, his stock went up. He was the number 10 ranked contender. He's the number 7 ranked contender after that fight. I think the UFC wants to get him back to contention. I think a rematch with Pantoja would be a big moneymaker. Obviously, he would need to probably get another win in the top 5, probably over somebody like Brandon Royval, but that's a different subject for another day. I think he will get the win in this fight. This, CR7 not going to be someone to go for the takedowns, and I think that Eric Craig will be able to stand up with him, and I'll take him by an unanimous decision. He could get a knockout, possibly in round 2. That's another one that I could predict there. If you are a bettor, I would say I'd take him by an unanimous decision or a second-round knockout, but I will say unanimous decision is the one I'm going to go with. The main event, which I feel like has not been as hyped as it really should be.
It's really nice.
But
I like it a lot.
I am a big fan myself.
I just like the fact that Duplessis. Help me out here.
Duplessis
is from South Africa, and Adesanya is from North Africa. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, I think Duplessis is going to be good on the ground, but I think Adesanya, he's got the knockout power, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. I got Israel Adesanya with a knockout in the 4th round.
Me and you have the same prediction. 4th round knockout by Adesanya. I should now listen, as I don't want to say UFC analyst, but as a guy who makes picks on fights, I probably should go with Duplessis. But what I will argue here is that when Adesanya is not the hunted, when he is the hunter, he is a lot more dangerous. When he fights, when he defends the belt, his style becomes pretty boring. But when he is trying to fight for the belt, he becomes a lot more exciting, and he becomes the Israel Adesanya that we know. Now, normally I take the guy. Let me backtrack. When I make my UFC picks, I normally take the guy who is shooting for the takedowns and who is better on the ground, and also has decent striking. I can't do that here because I don't think DDP is going to go to the ground with Adesanya. I feel like he has a chip on his shoulder, and I feel like he wants to prove that he is, a great stand-up guy, and I think he's going to try and stand and bang with Adesanya. Now, the argument is definitely there that, Duplessis should not be the middleweight champion right now, and he should have lost that fight to Sean Strickland. I also agree. I think he should have lost to Sean Strickland, but that's neither here nor there. I think he's going to try and stand and bag with Adesanya. I don't think he's going to go to the ground that much. I think he wants to prove that he is, I think he wants to prove that there is a reason he is the undisputed middleweight champion. And I don't think it's going to be a good idea that he's going to want to stand and bag with Israel Adesanya because, once again, when he is the hunter, he is a lot more dangerous, and that's why I think he will get the knockout in round 4 and become the new undisputed middleweight champion. Now, what I will say, what the UFC is doing with Adesanya is a bit unfair because of the fact that he's getting a title shot kind of just based off his name. People could definitely make the argument of, who else is there, which I did in the beginning. But after Sean Strickland dominated Paulo Costa, even though it was a split decision victory, which shouldn't have happened. But anyway, Sean Strickland probably deserves this title shot. But they obviously need someone to go in there for 305. This is in Perth. The storyline is kind of what everybody wants to see. Cole obviously brought that up earlier, how both guys are from Africa, but just on different sides of the country. I will say Strickland probably deserves the title shot more than Adesanya, just because Adesanya did get dominated by Strickland in their first fight. And then also, he probably should have I think he beat Duplessis in their fight. He should probably be the one getting the title shot. But I'm not mad about Adesanya doing it. Obviously, he has a legacy in the middleweight division. I also think the UFC wants him to win and then move him up to light heavyweight and have him face Alex Pereira in a super fight. I feel like he would need to have a title defense before then, but I think the UFC just wants that poster, just wants that headline right there, and have him fight Pereira at light heavyweight, even without a title defense. Cole, anything else, or can we move on?
All good.
All right, so we are going to move on here to the NFL. We'll be reacting to the Eagles' win over the Baltimore Ravens, barely eking out a win over the Baltimore Ravens on Friday. It was. Let me just pull up the stats really quick. Now, obviously, when I go over the Eagles games, I do. I go over pretty much every single position. I'm just going to kind of go over the guys that stood out to me. But I'm going to start with quarterback here. Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee, not really that great. Tanner McKee did not really put on any preseason magic that he was putting on last year. Kenny Pickett, not a bad game. 14 for 22, 89 passing yards. A passing touchdown, not bad. A quarterback rating of 87.1. It's not a bad game for Kenny Pickett. He'll obviously be the backup heading into next season. And then you're looking at the run game here. One guy that stood out to me was Will Shipley. Now, obviously, he didn't do much on the rushing, 3.3 yards per carry. Didn't really hit the holes as I was really hoping to. Obviously, I didn't really want to draft him. But he was definitely doing very, very well as a receiving back, which I think that's something that the Eagles need. If you need somebody else that is not named Kenneth Gainwell to receive the football, I think Will Shipley could be very, very good in that role. Obviously, the Eagles are going to be running an RPO offense. And also read options on an offense, and also you could have Will Shipley maybe out there as a kind of blocker on one of those like what do you call it, like screens that they screen passes, screen wheel passes, whatever Nick Sirianni likes to do with it. He could definitely be a decoy in the pass game as well. He can catch the ball. I mean, he had a receiving touchdown. I would like to see more of him at as a receiving back in the next 2 games there. So I think that's very well. Or I think that he can do well there. I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more out of Johnny Wilson. Only 1 catch for 7 yards, but he did have 3 targets. But really, the kind of bad balls, so not really much you can do there. John Ross on a bad game. I thought that he played pretty well. 3 catches, 28 yards. He has some pretty good routes that he did run. 5 targets. So yeah, I think that he did not have a bad game. Pretty good on the curl route. So hopefully, he does a pretty good job there. The Eagles are in conversations with the Texans about John Mechie. Cole, you reposted that on Twitter as well. And then going into the defense here, what did I tell you? Jeremiah Trotter Jr. That is the one guy. Oh, what is this here? Yeah, okay. AJ McKee will take on Paul Hughes at the PFL pay-per-view on October 19th. Okay. That's a good fight. Anyway, Cole, what did I tell you? Jeremiah Trotter Jr. This is the guy. I was screaming and yelling on Twitter and on YouTube videos that this is the guy that we need to draft. This guy can do everything on the field, and he proved it in this game. He had tackles. He was able to wrap anybody up. A sack. I mean, this guy was absolutely incredible. Also, Patrick Johnson, Nolan Smith getting in the backfield as well. Nolan Smith with a great speed rush. How many times do I have to say it? That you have to be a speed rusher to get over in today's NFL. Nolan Smith with a great speed rush there. Apparently, he has added weight, that being all muscle. So very glad to see that there. Patrick Johnson, I mean, he's a linebacker. We could use linebacker help from in any way, shape, or form. So honestly, I'm very happy to see him get that strip sack in the closing moments of that game right there. But I am so happy with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's proving my point that is the guy we should have drafted. I'm glad that Howie definitely took him. And my grandfather's been talked a lot about in this video or in this on this podcast here. He also brought up a good point, Cole. I'd like to know if you agree with it, that the Eagles maybe put out a memo in the draft for teams not to take Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Do you think that has any merit to it?
I mean, it could have definitely happened. I mean, they kept trading back, and I was like, dude, they gotta take him, because I was in an opera when he got drafted, and I was like sweating. I was like rechecking my phone. And finally we took him, and I was really glad. And then, the Eagles did that whole thing with the edits with his dad and whatnot. So, yeah, I definitely think it definitely happened. One thing before you wrap up that you didn't point out was Will Shipley on the kick returns. He's sneaky good. I wanted to point that out. 2 returns, 48 yards. I mean, he was solid. Better than Gainwell, but yeah.
We do have a few people.
Those kick returns are weird now.
Yeah, I like it, honestly. It's better than just seeing, the kneels in the end zone, it just sailing over the guys' heads, which is just at that point you just get rid of the kickoff. But I will say you are right. I mean, we do have a lot of guys who can kick returns. Devontae Smith can kick return. Britton Covey, who actually did a really good job last year, I think he should definitely be the starter for that. And then you just said Shipley, who's decent there. Cooper DeJean, when he just got activated from the injured list. I really hope to see him play. Cole, you know how high I am on him. Someone I wasn't so high on, and I want to give him some credit, was Quinyon Mitchell. There was one play where there was one slant in the beginning of the game. He was playing in the slot, which shows that he can do that as well. He gave the receiver inside leverage, he gave him inside leverage, and it was a slant. It was a 5-yard slant, and he was able to stay on that outside shoulder and just swat the ball down, which he does have those longer limbs, which does help him out there. So I want to give him some credit. He made 1 or 2 good plays in that game. Now, obviously, it was the Ravens didn't play their starting wide receivers, but that was still a very good play, still very impressive there, especially when you're giving the guy inside leverage. Somebody that I was looking forward to seeing but didn't see that much of was Isaiah Rodgers. See somebody that I was looking out for in this game, but didn't really see much of him.
I will say that is another guy who could kick return for us.
I forgot about that. Kale Ringo, he had a few plays as well. He had a few deflections, which are some good pass coverages as well. 2 pass deflections in that game for him. You know, I'm a big Kale Ringo fan. I was jumping up and down in the middle of the diner when the Eagles drafted him. So hopefully he is able to get some reps in the season. He was very good in man-to-man coverage, which is something that people look down upon him on. Obviously, he needs to be able to face the go route just a little bit better. But when it came to 10-yard routes and comebacks and curls and stuff like that, he played completely fine, which I'm okay with. I'm glad the Eagles got the win. One more thing I will critique: Jake Elliott did miss a few kicks in this game. If I'm looking at it here, he was 1 for 2 on field goal. Obviously he missed that first kick to probably give the Eagles the win, but thank God for Patrick Johnson to get in there and give him the second opportunity. So thank God he did that, made that. And then also you're looking at PATs. I know he missed a PAT. Now, obviously, I'm not going to look too deep into this because it's a kicker in the preseason. But the fact that he just got a contract extension and he is now one of the highest paid kickers in the NFL, if he's missing in the preseason when, teams aren't really trying that much to block kicks, how much are you really, how much confidence should I really put in you, especially after you also got a contract extension? So that is something that I want to point out there. Cole, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to agree with everything you said. I will say one thing. I'll touch on Braden Mann real quick. Averaged 50 yards on 5 punts, and 2 were in the 20. So, I thought that was really, really impressive by him. But, yeah, just piggybacking on what you said, Will Shipley was a standout to me. John Ross had a solid game. Jeremiah Trotter was just lovely to watch. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Alrighty, so now we'll move on into the NBA. So we'll be talking about the San Antonio Spurs, who have made some big headlines in the offseason, and their superstar Victor Wembanyama in international competition had a great game against the United States. He had over 20 points, and he was dominant in the post, getting switches, shooting the 3. He was shooting a couple deep 3s there. Obviously, Steph Curry outdid him in that category, but early in the game, he was hitting a couple 3s that were, from pretty long range. But, Cole, you have a bold prediction for the San Antonio Spurs next season. Let's hear it.
So I'll tell you the teams that are going to be better than them.
Okay.
The Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Mavericks. So that means they're going to be the 5 seed. I think it's just so possible. Chris Paul is going to, be so much of an upgrade from Trey Jones at their point guard. He's just going to be dishing the ball off. I think Jeremy Sochan will take a step up from where he was last year. I think Wembanyama will even take a step up, especially because of that reason. Harrison Barnes is a great addition on the wing, and you have Devin Vassell to pair with that. And Trey Jones is Stephon Castle off the bench is just, nasty. You also got Champagne and Keldon Johnson. I mean, this is a team with a great first and second rotation, and, their depth is very, very solid. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and got, one more guy, to fill in a wing spot. But, yeah, I'm loving this lineup. And I definitely think, as long as there's no huge injury that happens to this team, they're definitely a 5 seed in my eyes. I think they could even edge out the Mavericks. Even with the addition of Klay Thompson, I think it could be a little shaky start to the season. Maybe you get a couple injuries and, they're not as good. But anyways, do you agree? Or am I
Five seed could be a bit excessive. I will say that because I think that the Suns now the Suns improved in this way. They didn't have a point guard last year, a true point guard. They just signed Tyus Jones. When the Memphis Grizzlies had Tyus Jones and he was starting when John Morant was injured, they were like 10 games, 15 games over 500 without John Morant in that 2021 season, I want to say, when they got to the year they played the Warriors. And that, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He was the catalyst for that bench. He was the best backup point guard in the NBA that season. And when he was the starting point guard, when John Morant was out, the Grizzlies were still playing great. He could dish the ball off. He could operate an offense. He could still average 10-plus points per game. He goes to the Wizards. He does relatively the same thing, but obviously the Wizards did not and still do not.
He got dumped off in Washington.
Yeah. Then he goes to Washington. Obviously, not really much can happen there. But now he's going to the Suns, where he's going to be the catalyst for an offense that it has three superstars, has three scorers on the team, and with his basketball IQ, I think he will be able to dish it off to the right person at the right time and allow them to score, which I think could generate a lot more points. Now, how the Suns perform defensively is a real question to put up, but I think that the Suns could possibly be better. I'm also looking at the New Orleans Pelicans. I think that they have a very good perimeter defense now, adding DeJounte Murray, also having Jose Alvarado out there. I talked a lot about their defense in the video I made when Murray got traded. They also got pennies on the dollar for him, or they got dollar. They traded pennies and they got the dollar. When they got DeJounte Murray, they kept Brandon Ingram. Zion Williamson is healthier than he was, and he still has CJ McCollum as well. So I think that the Pelicans are a team to look at. The Sacramento Kings, they just added DeMar DeRozan on a cheap contract. Now, they did trade away Harrison Barnes, and their bench is something to cause for concern. But during the regular season, I don't think that that'll be much of a problem. And then you look at the Houston Rockets, who were very, very good. Ending the year, they ended the year at 500. They almost snuck their way in to the play-in tournament, but they kind of fell off a little bit at the end. And then the Memphis Grizzlies are going to get John Morant back. So there are a couple teams there that I think could be better than the Spurs. I think that
I might take back the Grizz.
But I think starting the year could be the problem for the Spurs because how much chemistry this team has is not that much. So I don't think the 5 seed is something that they will get in. I think that the play-in tournament, possibly the 8th seed, could be their regular season ceiling. Now, I could be wrong. They could possibly get this 5 seed, depending on how they start the year. Because I think in the middle and the end of the year, they will play very, very well. But I think it's how they start the year is going to be how their season, or will kind of tell us how their season is probably going to end. Anything else to say?
Yeah, I'm going to take back the Grizz.
All right. So now we'll move on here. We'll stick with the NBA and the superstar I just mentioned. There's the Spurs superstar Victor Wembanyama had a great game against the United States where he shot 57% from the field, 26 points. So a great game from him. But it was just not enough to face the dominance of the United States and Stephen Curry. Cole, you saw that. I'm sure you saw the game. I'm sure you also saw my reactions on TikTok. TikTok did pretty well as well. I will say that. So thanks to everybody for the love. But Stephen Curry, I mean, I'll start off with him. I mean, what the hell? That's just something. Those shots are just something you can't teach, especially that last shot where he was fading away, 2 guys glued onto him, barely looking at the basket, and somehow it goes in. I mean, how do you teach that? And also hitting 4 threes as well. Great pump fakes as well from Steph Curry. You know, a lot of these French guys were really trying to go for the blocks there on the perimeter. Obviously, they have the height advantage over Curry, but the pump fakes really getting them in the air, really getting them behind them. Something underrated about Steph Curry's game is his pump fake. So I think that we have to point that out there. So a great game from Stephen Curry. Something I will say about the United States, there's a few reasons they won. Obviously, Stephen Curry is one. But their transition offense was very, very good. In some games, especially in those exhibition games, they really were not doing well in transition offense. They were turning the ball over. Now, they obviously had a lot of turnovers here in this game, but you know, I would beg to say that they have more transition points than they had turnovers in the whole, I believe, which I could be wrong about that, but I think they did have more transition points than turnovers. So I think that checks out right there. LeBron James leading the way there on that transition when he was off the floor, which I don't believe was for too long. He did play 32 minutes in this game, 32 and a half minutes, sorry. So he was only out for 7.5 minutes for the entire game. So, you know, not really much to critique there about his game.
Double-double as well.
Yes, did have a double-double. I don't disagree with him winning the tournament MVP, but I think that Steph Curry should have been put more into consideration just because he did save the game against Serbia and France. So, you know, because of the U.S. law, if he wasn't in that game against Serbia, the U.S. 100% would have lost. So I think that's something we had to put into consideration right there. But yeah, great game from LeBron James, great game from Steph Curry. LeBron led that transition offense, which I think is part of the reason the United States won. Another part of the reason the United States won, which was, I believe, is that France was not hitting their perimeter shots. If you look at their 3-point percentage, they were 30% from three. They took 30 3-point shots and hit 9 of them. You can't do that against the United States, who does not have that good of a perimeter defense. Now, albeit they were able to go 60% from the field, which did lead them to, you know, getting to within range of the United States. But I believe that 3-point shooting was part of the reason that you know, they were not able to succeed in this game, because when teams were able to hit threes like South Sudan in exhibition games, they were able to keep it close and lead the United States for most of the game. Same thing with Serbia. So that's a problem there. And I think another problem for France was free throws, only 58% from free throws. That is another big problem right there. You need to hit your free throws, especially in international competition when the court is a bit smaller. Now I'm really downing France in this game, but they some of their guys put on very good performances. Obviously, I just talked about Victor Wembanyama, but this guy Yabusele, this guy dunked on LeBron. He was getting to the rim. He could rebound efficiently. This guy was a former first-round pick for the Boston Celtics. If I'm some NBA GMs, I'm getting his agent on the phone and I'm getting him a contract, because this guy, against the best competition in the NBA, when they were actually trying, is, he's dominating, not dominating, but playing like that is just absolutely incredible. But yeah, really not much else about this French team. It was really only Yabusele and Wembanyama who really, held the standard of excellence. You had this guy, De Colo, off the bench, who I thought led the offense very, very well. I thought he dished out the ball well. I thought he was a great player. I thought a great playmaker. He had 12 points as well. So not a bad game for France. They kept it close in the end. But Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, who also didn't have a bad game as well. And I'll make an argument for Kevin Durant. I said it before. I'll say this again. Kevin Durant is now the greatest basketball Olympian in United States history. I'll make that argument after Cole gives his analysis on this game.
All right. So, like you said, Yabusele, he did get some NBA attention, I guess. But yeah, I think I reposted that at some point. Also, the other forward for France sold them. He was 0 for 5 from the field. 2 turnovers. I mean, he was horrible. Didn't get a free throw either. Cordonnet, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
And then, Batum, he was okay. He was good on the boards. I mean, he had the most rebounds for.
He was getting a lot of offensive rebounds.
And then, I mean, it was pretty much about the 2 zeros from the starters. I mean, obviously, I'm not even going to try it. But anyways, 7 minutes, 0 for 3. Didn't play the rest of the game. Kubali, he was actually solid off the bench as a guard for them, along with Fournier, who didn't shoot well from the field at all, 30% from the field. He did hit 2 threes, though. But going back to what you said, Stephen Curry, man. I mean, he started off this game pretty bad, to be honest with you.
He did.
5 turnovers. He didn't get double digits until, I believe, the second half, I'm pretty sure. But, finished the game with four threes. I mean, boy, oh boy, he just completely clutched up for us. And then I'll touch on a few guys off the bench. Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo. Not Bam. Anthony Davis was solid off the bench, as well as Drew Holiday. Obviously, what he brings defensively is just, super key. But, I mean, this was just a great all-around game, for the United States. Joel Embiid only 11 minutes, contributed 4 points off some free throws. He did get his money's worth in with on the glass. Did have 2 assists as well as a steal. So he was solid. But then LeBron came in, not came in, but LeBron's been there, done that, comes in 14 points along with KD with 15. I mean, this whole starting lineup was just super solid. I wouldn't even put Embiid in the starting lineup. I'd say Anthony Davis was the starter because he was on the floor the majority of the game. So, I mean, this was just a great all-around game by the U.S. They cleaned it up a lot in the second half. I think their lead going into halftime was key, and then just, keeping that going, scoring 23 and 26 in the third and fourth quarter, something that, just great closing out the game. They scored 26 in the fourth. I mean, the majority of that was Stephen Curry, but, just their ability to, stay in the lead, stay within, firing range and whatnot. Just a great all-around game by the U.S.
So also, last thing to point out, somebody who I don't think had the greatest Olympics was Steve Kerr. I thought that his lineups in this game were odd, especially when they had Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama on the floor at the same time. You had Jason Tatum, who I understand is 6'10", but you had Jason Tatum defending Victor Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert along with Anthony Davis. Thought that was pretty odd lineup right there. Not sure why you didn't have Bam and Anthony Davis on the floor at the same time, because they were very good defending the paint when on the floor together. And then the time you have 2 7-footers on the floor together, wouldn't you want your best paint defensive players on the floor? It just doesn't make that much sense to me why that was going on. But those two were only on the floor for a couple minutes, so it's not really that big of a concern. Steve Kerr, not the best Olympics for him overall. Hopefully he is able to do better in the FIBA World Cup and when the Olympics come to Los Angeles in 2028. Overall, Cole, I thought there were some pretty great Olympics. I mean, you were talking about Simone Biles last week. You were talking about gymnastics. Noah Lyles actually did not win. What was it, like a 200 meters sort of thing? He was talking all the trash about the NBA and the NFL, and he got COVID, which is a real shame. But it is what it is. What are you gonna do? I thought that was pretty. I thought it was pretty unnecessary when he was talking about Anthony Edwards, though. Like he didn't deserve the shoe deal because he didn't have a championship. How many guys that have shoe deals that don't have a championship? I mean, literally, I think every athlete has a shoe. There isn't one athlete that I don't think you can name that doesn't have a shoe deal. I mean, everybody has a shoe deal.
Luka, you could have said Luka.
I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. It's not that deep, but still, I mean, I think that was pretty petty. But whatever. It's not my concern. It's not my concern. Hell, I mean, this guy could smoke me in a race any day. COVID or not, this guy could smoke me in a race any day of the week. He almost could have won like the silver or the gold, though. He was like literally, I think it was 500 tenths of a second away from winning the gold medal or something like that with COVID, which is just nuts. Anyway, moving back over into the MLB, back to the NL East. Team that we are not too fond of, but a team we have to talk about is the Atlanta Braves. They did early in the year, they did lose Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna Jr. to injuries, and now they are back in the rankings, if you could say. They're trying to get back into trying to stay in the wild card. They are one game above the Mets currently, as they are trying to get into or trying to stay in the wild card race. Cole, will the Atlanta Braves, when it's all said and done, make the playoffs?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And I know this is a very hot take, but I just think they're too injury rattled. I mean, Michael Harris is on the 60-day IL along with Ronald Acuna. Albies is on the 10-day IL. Minter's on the 15-day IL, along with Reynaldo Lopez and Tyler Matrix on the 60-day IL. I mean, this team is riddled with injuries. You know, Pierce Johnson, Joe Jimenez, and Aaron Bummer. I mean, they're solid relievers. But when you look at this team, Max Fried, Chris Sale, Charlie Morton, Bryce Elder, I mean, Max Fried and Chris Sale, they can't carry this team all the way. I mean, you want to keep going. I mean, Sean Murphy has had a bad year, along with Matt Olson. I mean, his down year is a solid year, but either way, now you got to play Guillorme at second base because of Albies. And then, Riley, he's had a down year as well. Arcia, he's a bum. And then you got Kelnick, Duvall, and Ozuna in the outfield. I mean, I don't even know who they're putting in the outfield at this point. With Harris and Acuna gone, I think they're going Kelnick, Duvall, and maybe Luke Williams. I don't even know at this point. It's just falling apart for the Braves. I think the Mets will end up in the playoffs. As much as I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, Ryan, do you agree? Or
I don't know. I feel like it's tough because the Mets are always known for blowing it. So, I mean, unless these Cardinals and Giants can get out of whatever they're in, which is...
I can see the Cardinals.
The Cardinals are one. Both teams are on 2-game losing streaks. Giants are 6-4 in their last 10. The Giants are these teams are possible. Do I think they'll probably do it? No. I think if some of these guys can go off the injured list, which Cole you just pointed out, then they could probably do it. But I don't know. I feel like that they probably could eventually get in, because my question is who else? I just don't see the Mets getting in. I don't know. It's tough. It's a tight race right now. For now, until I see otherwise, I'm gonna say yes, they will. But they, anything can happen. Injuries happen. Anything can happen with any team. It doesn't matter who it is. But for right now, I'll say yes. With that answer subject to change. All right. Now we have covered everything else, and now we are going to get into Ryan's rants. Cole, give me the.
You want to do the women's?
Well, I'm talking about that now.
All right. Okay. You pull it up real quick.
Ryan's rants, baby.
The U.S. women's basketball team take it to the wire.
Just mentioned it. Now I'm going to say it. You didn't want Caitlin Clark, right? Because there was too much. The women were, it was a competition thing, right? Well, now you just win by 1 point to the French. The United States, right? 8 straight women's gold medals. Am I lying? Where's the lie? And now you're going down to the wire with France? What international competition do you see in the women's in France in the women. Where do you see it? There's none of it. The United States holds every single best women's player in the NBA or in the WNBA. So where's the competition? Why are you only winning by 1 point to France? Asia Wilson had an incredible game. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You didn't want Caitlin Clark because it was a competition thing. And then you go out there and you barely win to France. You barely win the gold medal. Absolutely, an absolute disgrace from the United States. In all honesty, they didn't deserve to win that game. Just terrible.
I do want to shout out Copper real quick and and Gabby Williams from France, because I think Gabby Williams was the best on the floor other than Asia Wilson. She was absolutely incredible in the fourth quarter. Too bad she stepped on the line. Redick wants another trade.
Hassan Redick wants a trade from the Philadelphia Eagles because he doesn't get a contract extension. Okay, fine. I don't care. But then he goes to the Jets. He doesn't get a contract extension. And now he's babying about it again. If nobody wants to give you a contract extension, there is a complete reason for that. And the reason for that is that you're getting older. No one thinks you're worth it. The Jets and the Eagles didn't think that you were worth the value that you were. If two contenders that could possibly use you to go win a championship don't think you're worth the value that you're at, you either need to lower your value or you need to prove that you're worth the value that you're saying you're worth. I'm not saying that he is. 4 straight 10-plus sack seasons? But as he is getting older, as he didn't look that good in the last 8 games of the season last year, teams have some questions about whether he can perform at the level that he once was performing at. So I'm not entirely sure why he's getting all upset about this and demanding a trade. The Jets said they're not trading him. I don't blame them. Do they necessarily need him? No. They probably could trade him, but they're not going to get much for him. In my opinion, I think they get a 4th or 5th round pick just because of these contract problems. Honestly, it probably would get worse. But these contract problems have really lowered his trade value. So I don't think that they would get much for him. So that's why they're not going to trade him. But I'm not sure why he's not interested in going out there and trying to perform. I understand injuries are a problem, but he hasn't been injured in these past couple of seasons. So where's the argument in that? It doesn't seem like he's that interested in going out and trying to prove himself. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, I could be wrong, but that's just what it seems like from an outsider's perspective. This is actually ridiculous. Go out there, do your job, go perform. You've been fined over $1 million. You know what I could do with an extra $1 million? Just saying. Last topic.
Michigan being number 9 in the poll.
The reigning, defending national champions. Listen, I understand they lost Harbaugh. I understand they lost Blake Corum. I understand that they lost J.J. McCarthy. But they still have a defense. They still have a very, very good defense at Michigan. Why the reigning, defending national champions is ranked number 9? When I was looking at the poll, I thought they weren't ranked at all. But why Michigan is ranked number 9, being the reigning, defending national champions, is just absolutely ridiculous to me. I understand their offense isn't as good, but their offense isn't really what won them the championship last year. Their defense is really what got them there. Come on, that's ridiculous. Whoever's voting on that, no, that they were wrong about that. They're very wrong about that. Anything on these topics, Cole?
Well, I mean, and it's not like Harbaugh was that big of a loss because they won, 2 games with the other guy?
I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm sure his head, but not.
Yeah, I remember. Anyway, before we wrap up, I forgot to make my argument for Kevin Durant being the greatest United States basketball Olympian of all time. I thought it was, possibly Carmelo Anthony or Dwayne Wade, but now I will say, or Kobe Bryant, sorry. Carmelo Anthony or Kobe Bryant. But now I will say it's Kevin Durant, and here's the reason why. 4 gold medals, more than Carmelo Anthony and Kobe Bryant. He's the all-time leading scorer in U.S. Olympian basketball history. 3 separate times he's led the United States in averages and scoring, that being 2012, 2016, 2020. This year, where the competition level was higher than it ever was, even when Kevin Durant was not having the best game, which you could argue was the game against France, he still had 15 points in that game in 40 minutes time, with the ball barely being in his hands the entire game. When he was injured, the United States looked terrible. When he came back, the United States looked like they were unbeatable. Once again, in the highest level of competition. I don't think there's an argument against it, but if you just look at the offensive numbers, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the amount of gold medals, I don't think there's an argument that Kevin Durant is not the best Olympian in United States basketball history. And in the FIBA World Cup, they didn't have Kevin Durant there. And in 2020, when they had him there, they won the gold medal. And the FIBA Cup, when they didn't have him there, it was pretty much the same team. They came in fourth. With him there, they were first. Now this year, they got the gold medal. Not solely because of Kevin Durant, but he was definitely part of the reason. Also, he was another reason that they got by Serbia. I think he's the greatest Olympian in U.S. basketball history. Cool? Anything on that? Or
I have one comment. I like your shirt, Ryan.
Very nice. Yeah, I got this in D.C.
I was just in D.C.
Really? We got this. We got this at the what was that? Entertainment Museum, whatever it was called. The I forget what it was called. I think you know what I'm talking about, like with all the
Yeah, they got a ton of stuff down there.
Yeah, they have too much there. Too much. So much walking. The steps I had when I was there were just absolutely nuts. Like my feet have never hurt more. Anyway, that will do it for the latest edition of the CR7 Podcast, guys. And yeah, we will see you later. Peace.